Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to SF Live. I'm Myrna Lim, your host. Tonight we have a very special guest. Education is one of those issues in San Francisco, in the state, that is so extremely important. Everybody talks about it. Everybody is questioning what's going on with our educational system today. There's a lot of debates happening as to when kids go wrong. Whose fault is it? Is it the parents or is it the school? Well, tonight we will not dwell into that problem because that would just take forever for us to discuss. However, we have a person who has been so involved in the educational process in San Francisco. She's a mom of 2 kids, a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old.
A 3-year-old.
3-year-old. Looking at her, you wouldn't think so. But, however, she is very involved. She's the chairperson of the Students First initiative. She is also running for the school board in this coming cycle in 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Chris Miller.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to have me on to speak.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So, first of all, let's talk about the Students First initiative.
Sure.
And how did you get involved in politics? How did you decide to get involved in this particular issue and so forth?
Sure, absolutely. So the Students First backed initiative is called the Neighborhood Schools Initiative. And basically, in a nutshell, what that basically tackles here in San Francisco is our issue of the student assignment system.
Okay.
And the big issue that we're facing here, parents, teachers, administrators alike, is being in a lottery system. So we are on a lottery system here in San Francisco that doesn't necessarily ensure that parents will have their children anywhere near their home to attend school, whether it be an elementary school, middle school, or high school. So what this initiative will ensure, if it passes in November in this coming election on the ballot, is that parents will automatically have the option of sending their children to their closest neighborhood school, while still opening up the possibility to opt to another school outside of their neighborhood. And that is not currently an option that we have here in San Francisco.
So they don't have to put in for the lottery anymore? Or?
No, they won't.
Okay.
So basically what it will be is you will automatically have first choice at going to your neighborhood school, and if you choose a school outside of your neighborhood, then you will give your preferences, and if there's availability, that's where your children will go, which is the way it is in most other parts of the country and in the state, but not here in San Francisco.
Okay, well, this problem has been happening mainly because certain schools have a lot more resources than others. Certain schools are, quote, better schools than others. It'll be a lot easier. I mean, in the ideal world, one would think, well, why can't they just be all good schools? But then, of course, that's not really the facts of life. But typically, you would have better schools in the Sunset, and the Richmond, in the Marina, of course, and so forth. And there seems to be a class basis sort of distinction here.
Sure, absolutely.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
This is absolutely a serious consideration. This is something we're very concerned about. And one very important aspect that this initiative is focusing on is quality neighborhood schools. So, and we've had a lot of support in the Bayview, Hunters Point, and Mission areas from parents and activists, and teachers as well, saying, hey, we want our children to go to school near their homes. We want them to be involved in their community. We want them to go to school here in their community. Therefore, we would also like focus given to excellence in our schools as well. In the school district within our area as well. We don't want the option of sending our children to another neighborhood. We want the option of our children going to school in a quality school in their neighborhood here. And that's a major problem. There shouldn't be 3 schools or 5 schools, elementary schools throughout the city that parents are working so incredibly hard to get their children into. There should be an option for parents to send their children to their school in their neighborhood and have that be, a sufficient education for their kids. And that's not the case right now.
Well, let's talk in concrete. How about the testing? Let's take, for instance, a school in the Excelsior, like Denman Middle School, as opposed to like a school in the Sunset. How do they compare in terms of testing for the kids?
So basically, testing and the census tract both have a lot to do with where children go to school.
Right, right.
So it's not necessarily random because there is a whole system between 1 and 5 that decides where children go to school.
Right.
So we have a lottery system, but it's much more complex than that.
Right.
In fact, most parents who have children in the public school system don't understand it. And another thing we're working on is kind of breaking it down in layman's terms so people can actually understand what's going on.
Right.
The neighborhood school assignment is the least focused on aspect of that. So it's at the very end of the list.
Okay.
So siblings are also another, so if there's a sibling going to, an elementary school, for instance, then their brother or sister is most likely going to get into that school. Well, when it comes to testing, a couple different things come into play. One, that's a consideration for placement in schools.
Right.
And then we also have our schools like Lowell and School of the Arts that are in a whole different, they're in a whole different section. So this initiative does not apply to that.
Right, right.
So basically, federal grants as well are considered when they're looking at the overall testing of a school.
Right.
Well, on a citywide level, if we're not putting enough money, enough funding, and enough effort and energy into schools that are testing poorly, then they are going to be receiving less federal funding as well.
Right, right.
So, I mean, that's something that we need to focus on. So we're leaving these schools in a position where they will never be a school that parents are wanting to get their children into until we get to the point where we figure out how to get schools all at a very similar level. And that's not something that we're doing right now.
Well, okay, let's take, for instance, Lowell High School and Balboa High School are just not up to par. I mean, Balboa High School under Patricia Gray, I believe she's still the principal there, has made a lot of improvements. Right. She's a very hands-on type of principal. I think there's a lot more pride in the neighborhood there going to Balboa High School. But then let's face it, Lowell High School is kind of in a league of its own.
Sure,
Everybody wants to go to
absolutely,
Lowell.
absolutely.
As a matter of fact, one lady, she's already like graduated from law school. She's already been working in the state government, and every time she gives a speech, she's still talking about Lowell High School.
Right. And that's understandable. I mean, I know quite a few leaders within the city and the community here in San Francisco that attended Lowell, and it isn't a class all on its own. It's a very, very difficult high school to get into. The educators there are amazing. The curriculum is different. The focus is very different. But that's a very unique kind of situation there when it comes to those two high schools. So our biggest issue here in San Francisco is obviously we're facing some very, very serious and immediate budget cuts here in California, which San Francisco is going to be in the same position as well. And Jerry Brown has issued statements in December and January to that effect. Budget cuts are inevitable. I mean, it's something that has to happen in education and in every other sector in San Francisco.
He has $28 billion problem too.
Sure, absolutely. So, and some of that funding is going to come out of the public education fund. So, I think at this point the big issue is that we need to focus on is the budget deficit. It's inevitable. It's here. It's real. It's something we're currently dealing with. Current budget cuts within the public education system are also inevitable.
Aren't we declining also? Aren't we facing a problem of a declining student population too?
Sure, we absolutely are.
So and there's losing a lot of federal
funds, many
right?
reasons for that. I mean, we live in a city where the population of household pets is higher than that of children.
Oh, is it?
It is. So, I mean, so this is true. Absolutely. We do have a declining student population. I know there are many reasons for that, and one of the big reasons for that is the fact that parents are so uncertain of where their children are going to be attending school. Right. I mean, as a parent, a lot of emphasis is put on, where your children will be educated. Right. And the implications of that. I mean, as a parent, that's your job. Right. To know where your children are going to school and, what type of education they're going to be getting, what the teachers are like there, if they're near home, if they're not. And a lot of parents don't find out to the last minute where their children are going to school here.
Right.
And private school is ridiculously expensive here.
Exactly.
It's not affordable. It's not reasonable. And most parents can't afford it, so they don't have that option.
Well, what's happening with the ROTC now? Is it back?
It is, yeah. So the JROTC
right.
is still active here in San Francisco.
Right. The Board of Education tried to stop that, right?
They did. They tried to stop the JROTC program in a very successful campaign that drew some serious national attention.
Right.
Was able to continue JROTC here in San Francisco.
Right.
So, and that's something that we were really proud to see.
Okay, so see, with the Board of Education today, let's see, who are in it now? Okay, Jane Kim became a supervisor.
Right, she became a supervisor in District 6 as the president of the school board.
Okay, and then who else is there? Let's see, Jill Wins is still there.
Jill Wins has been there for quite some time.
She's been there forever.
Sure.
And Eric Marr became a supervisor, so he's been out of there for a while.
Rachel Norton.
Rachel Norton.
Rachel Norton.
She's a special ed background.
Sure, absolutely.
And
Emily Morasse is newly elected.
Oh, right, I just saw her.
Hydra Mendoza was reelected as an incumbent.
Right. And then who else is there? You know, Leland Yee used to be in the Board of Education, and now
well, and that's funny that you say that. Is actually a thought that was going through my mind. Many members of our city leadership, as well as congressional and senatorial candidates, absolutely, started out using the school board as a pretty lucrative stepping stone.
Exactly.
So that is actually a very common occurrence here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's good and bad. It's good and bad. I think we want to attract strong, educated, passionate leadership onto our Board of Education, and I think we also want the current members and the future members of our Board of Education to really have a stake in and understand the implications of their decisions here in San Francisco. We don't want them to be thinking ahead to their next political move.
Exactly.
So it's good and bad. I mean, it's great that they're starting out with an understanding of the overall education system here, but, you know, for instance, in the situation with Jane Kim, one term, president of the school board, started her campaign for Board of Supervisors well before her last year of the Board of Education. And now she's off to District 6. And I'd like to see some, I'd like to see more Board of Education candidates with a very strong background in education. Or with children here in the community.
She doesn't have a kid, right?
No. It's very uncommon for a member of our Board of Education to actually have children in the public education system. It's my understanding that 2 out of all the seats on our Board of Education have children right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's an important piece. And I think that, I know that Bevan Dufty is working on an initiative that would potentially raise the salaries of Board of Education members.
They don't get paid now, right?
Well, they're paid, but it's like a stipend. It's a small amount.
They get $500 a month.
Yeah, so it's $6,000 annually. But I think he is working on an initiative to raise that to $25,000 annually.
No, they don't need to get paid. I mean,
absolutely, I agree with you. I agree with you for many reasons.
It should not. It should just be a policy-making sort of body that gives advice, because you have a huge staff already. So
right, and we want them to be there because they're passionate about children and education and bettering our education system. God knows we need it. By any means possible. So, I mean, we have an epidemic when it comes to our fiscal crisis here in San Francisco, but we also have a very serious and real immediate epidemic of a lack of accountability and a failing public education system here. And that's something our current Board of Education and our San Francisco Unified School District really needs to take a close look at and take seriously.
Okay, let's talk about you. How did you get involved in politics? I mean, you look awfully young for somebody to have a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Sure. Well, thank you. I like to think I'm young, but so I got involved in politics at a young age. My father is amazing. He's been in public service for about 40 years.
Okay, well, doing what?
As a city planner, community development director. So he's been
in San Francisco.
I'm not here in San Francisco. In East Palo Alto, in Morgan Hill, currently up in Folsom. So I grew up with a very charismatic workaholic of a father that worked, you know, in grassroots politics as well, in kind of a different capacity. But I
like Morgan Hill. It's a beautiful place.
It is. It is. So, so I've been around local politics my whole life, and I developed a passion for it at an early age. I'm also, my undergrad was in political science,
Okay.
So although I'm a...
Where? What school?
So I actually started out in Oregon, University of Oregon.
Okay, I like Oregon.
Yeah, Cal State Monterey Bay is where I finished up. So I'm a local.
Okay.
I grew up in Palo Alto, Redwood City area. And so I went on to own a placement agency and went into the high-tech field. But I've always, on the side, you know, kind of been involved in grassroots politics, mostly in the education realm, here in California and also in Texas. But as a mom, you know, that's why I'm involved in the public education system here in San Francisco.
Right.
I love this city. I don't love the public education system here. I don't love the education that my children are getting currently. And, you know, I feel comfortable staying here in the city if I can really seriously impact our education system.
Right, right.
And like many other parents, I won't stay here forever if it continues the way it is now. So instead of sitting around and complaining about it, I'm attempting to be part of the solution. And many other parents are doing the same, thousands of parents. So in Students First, the organization I'm chairman of is comprised of parents, passionate, concerned parents that really want to be a part of education reform here in San Francisco.
Well, let's look at it this way. I mean, San Francisco is one of those crazy places. I love San Francisco, but it's so nice.
You can say that again. I have a hard time explaining the dynamics of our, you know, a political system here to everyone outside of the city. Everyone.
Exactly. It's like, okay.
Especially with the help of media and the web and, you know.
Well, it's a case where it's like there's the progressives and the moderates. It's like, who cares about these brands?
Sure.
But you know, the media seems to play that up because the media in San Francisco are not reporting. They're part of the story.
They have a lot of, we give them a lot of material to work with.
Exactly. It's like a little drama, you know?
Sure.
Everybody's a drama queen. But, okay, for the Board of Education, is there somebody there that you would like to be like? In other words, like if you become a Board of Education member, people like to sort of pigeonhole people, and not because I would like to pigeonhole you, but people kind of want to get a sense of, is she going to be one of those crazy people who will say, let's put in the curriculum a study of war, you know, 2 years old, and things like that. I mean, how would they classify you as far as, okay, JROTC, you like that. Okay, that's good.
That's something I'm very passionate about.
Okay, and that's not, some people do not want that because they think it's going to be a recruitment, you know,
well, I have a very,
tool
my family has a very strong background within the military, and I'm also a former military wife. So, so I've seen all sides of that. Okay, I've seen all sides of that issue. To answer your question, I can't necessarily put myself.
You'll be your own person.
I'm running for a very different reason.
Right. Okay.
I value my sanity too much to want to use the Board of Education as a stepping stone to anything further in politics. I will always be involved in the political system, either here in San Francisco or wherever I'm residing. It's something I'm very proud of, and I'm honored to be a part of. I would be coming more from the perspective of a concerned mother who is wanting to force real education reform, accountability, transparency. I won't be linked necessarily to the teachers' unions. You know, so that's a different thing. I don't think there's very many current members of the school board.
The teachers' union should like a person like you. I mean, because
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. One would think so.
Yeah.
And we will be reaching out to the teachers' unions. With our Neighborhood Schools Initiative. And I'm very much hoping that we'll be able to work together with them. We've gotten some input from quite a few current teachers, administrators, and leadership within the SFUSD, so I'm hoping that happens.
Okay, now speaking of the role of mayor, we are having a mayor's race coming up very soon. Actually, they had been having symposiums and so forth. But the mayors of the city have had a lot of impact on the school system, particularly because part of the charter grants the school system some monies. There's some formula. I don't remember what the formula is now. But in any event, it does get money from the city. So let's say Leland Yee gets elected as mayor. Not that I'm pitching for Leland. I know Leland.
Let's say anyone gets elected for mayor. Somebody's getting elected for mayor.
Somebody's going to be elected for mayor. Okay, so would you be able to work with that mayor, and then would you have some kind of agenda with that mayor to say, look, I would like to influence you or hopefully advocate for X?
Well, I'm hoping so. In the past, there have been mayors that have actually advocated for education reform. It's one thing to say that you advocate for education reform, but it's a whole nother issue altogether whether or not you actually do. You know, putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak. I know that Gavin Newsom did get involved a little bit in the education system here.
Isn't Mendoza like a part of the mayor's staff?
Yes.
Is she still there?
Yes. Yes, she is. She is an incumbent that was reelected to the Board of Education. Yeah. So yes, there is a link between the mayor's office and the Board of Education and the school district. I would like to see our next mayor of San Francisco more heavily involved in the public education system. So back to your initial comment of, say hypothetically that Leland Yee did end up as our next mayor of San Francisco.
He used to be a board of education member.
He has a background in education.
He's a psychologist too.
He's an extremely well-educated individual.
That's why he's very successful in politics in San Francisco. He's a psychologist.
Well, and we're also in talks with him as well about working on this initiative with us.
Oh, okay, good.
And you'll be seeing, us working together on this neighborhood schools initiative. So it is a positive thing to have very strong leadership using the Board of Education as a stepping stone, especially if it goes full circle and they end up running for mayor and they really do want to be involved in education reform. And this is a term that's very loosely thrown around.
Exactly. Okay, we only have like a minute and 20 minutes here. Why don't you talk about your platform? You already started your campaign. You have to raise money, which is one of the most difficult things to do. Why don't you tell the audience what you need?
And you know from experience.
Oh my God, it's so hard.
It is not an easy thing to do. So I've been on the other end of the coin for many years and in assisting to run campaigns. So I did just announce in the last week and a half that I'm running for the school board in 2012. I'm extremely excited about it. I see our current state and citywide deficit as also an opportunity to usher in a new era of school choice.
Okay. All right. We have 20 seconds. Email address, website?
Sure. So for Students First, my email address is chris.miller, M-I-L-L-E-R, at sfstudentsfirst.org. And my information will be on there as well as a candidate for the San Francisco Board of Education for 2012. Great,
awesome. See how time flies. 22 minutes, that's just not enough. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Remember Chris Miller, you will see her very often from here on forward. Good night.
Thank you.